guys, welcome back to my blog. Today I'm going to do a video for you guys on 5 essential brushes, or well, I should say 6 essential makeup tools because the Beauty Blender's in there too. These are the tools that I think that you would need to use for everyday makeup. I think for me, everyday makeup means powder contour, so I'm not going to be using any cream or liquid products to contour with, because I think that if you use powder, it's more natural and it's more for everyday. So I did this video for you guys. I'm going to show you all the brushes just briefly, so you know what is going to be in the video. I did this look right here that I'm wearing right now, using the brushes in the video. The first brush I used is the foundation brush, and these are a little bit dirty because I just used them. So you're going to need, one of the essential brushes is the foundation brush. Then I have a concealer brush, powder, loose powder brush, the contour powder brush, and then we have the blush brush right here, and the Beauty Blender. So those are all the brushes you're going to see featured in the video, and like I said, I used all those brushes to get this look that I'm wearing right now. So if you want to see and learn more about the brushes and why they're good, and maybe some alternatives to some of them if you don't want to spend that much and you want to see how I use them, then just keep watching. Okay, I'm back. I did my eyeliner off camera because it just takes too long, and this isn't what the video, what this tutorial is about. So the first step, the first thing I'm going to do is put my moisturizer and primer on. And the moisturizer I like to use is Shiseido. This is my favorite. It's so nice and luxurious. I did do a post on this on my Instagram page, so if you want to know more about it, it's on there. And then my primer is MAC Prep and Prime. Looks like this. It's one of my favorites. It's my go-to. I use it all the time. So I'm going to start off with the moisturizer. Take a good little amount. Put it all over my face. A little more. I always put it on my lips too, because to moisturize them so they're not dried out, and when you get foundation and stuff like that on top of them, just be careful with your eyeliner. And then I feel like you guys are so zoomed in and this is so unflattering, so I'm gonna zoom out a little. By the way, don't mind my eyebrows. I need to get them done, and my eyebrow lady seriously yelled at me last time I touched them up because she said I took too much, so I had to leave them just like that. Sorry. So then I swirl this together, dab it so it gets everywhere, and then I blend it in. So for your primer, you're going to want to keep that on your skin for like 3 minutes before you put, 3 to 5 minutes before you put anything on top, just so it really soaks into your skin. And primer is really good because it kind of fills in any, like, you know, unevenness on your skin, any holes, and it just leaves a nice clean even layer on your skin, so that when you put your foundation on, everything looks nice, flawless, things like that. Do not mind my breakouts. Actually, it's not really, well, no, that one is a breakout. I lied. I thought it was just a scar, but so yeah, about 3 minutes. This is the time where I do like little things, like I'll do the inside of my eye line, my waterline with the, I always use like a nude liner. So this one's just like a pen from, a pencil I made from Sephora. It was $10. It's a really good one for the inside of the eye. I mean, nothing stays for like all day really, unless you use like a cream. Now we'll go ahead and do the foundation. Now the first thing we're going to talk about is the foundation brush. This is, I know I showed you earlier, the foundation brush. It's by Urban Decay. It's called Optical Blurring. You could buy this at Sephora. I really like this because it's a nice dense brush, which means it's like, it's got a lot of bristles and they're like a little bit more tightly compacted. So you pick up a lot more product, which is why we use the Beauty Blender after. A lot of people will just, you know, put your foundation and dip right into the Beauty Blender and skip this step. I don't like to do that because when you dip directly into the Beauty Blender, it saturates in that spot and it really sinks in, and it's super, super hard to clean, if you could even clean it at all. And I don't like to ruin my Beauty Blenders because they ain't cheap. So to keep you know, lasting you longer, I do it this way. If you don't want to spend the money on an Urban Decay brush, which is totally cool because really it's really not necessary, you can buy lower end brushes as long as they're the same type of brush. So for example, there's this brush right here. It's called the stippling brush. It's by Real Techniques. Real Techniques is an awesome, awesome, awesome brand because they have awesome brushes, but they're very affordable. So the reason why I like this, again, it's dense. And I like anything stippling, like with the duo fiber, like the white tips are really, really good for this. So this is like tight and compacted, but still like you can move it a little bit, as you can see. You can find this at Ulta. You can also find them at Walmart. So, and they're really affordable. So if you want a, you know, a cheaper version, they're probably like 10 or 15 bucks versus like 30 to 50 on these regular name brand brushes. And that's a huge difference, especially if you don't have brushes and you're trying to fill up your supply. So first thing we're going to do, we're going to take the Urban Decay brush. I'm using Born This Way by Too Faced in the color Sand. I love this foundation. It's a newer foundation. It's amazing. It's just so flawless. So I'm going to do a couple squirts. Now, when you use a brush like this, like I said, it picks up a little bit more product. So I like to, you know, get a little bit of a thicker, I don't want to say a thick layer, like a medium layer on there. And then when we buff it, we'll buff it out with the Beauty Blender to like even it out and lighten it up a little bit. Unless you're going to like a big event, a wedding or something, and you want like a little bit more heavier coverage, you don't have to take so much off with a Beauty Blender. But we're going to take this, we're going to dip it in there. We're going to just start on this side, and I like to just really buff it in circular motions. This is kind of difficult to do because I can't really see myself as well, but I get just whatever's like extra on the brush, just like right under my eye. I like this brush too because it's so dense and fluffy that there's not a lot of streaking. So if you didn't even want to do the Beauty Blender step, you didn't have to because there's no streaking. It's a nice even layer. And put it over my lips so when I put my lipstick on, they're, you know, a nude base. All over my forehead. I'm gonna put whatever's extra on my lids. Just be careful to not touch my eyeliner. Obviously, I only do this when I don't do any foundation. Like I do my liner first, but I mean that's pretty much almost always for me because I don't wear eyeshadow on a regular basis. But just blend it in, buff it in really well. I always, always, always blend it down to my neck. Don't ever not do that. It's so unattractive to see this line right here. So I don't put as much, you know, I just bring the color down, whatever's left on there. My neck is usually, you know, a lot of people will match to their neck color, like match their foundation color to their neck color, but my neck tends to be really white too. Because I usually either cover it or my faces cover it if I'm out in the sun or something. So I try to match to my chest, if you guys can see it, rather than my neck, which is why I have to bring it down. But even if you're matching to your neck, you know, and the color matches, I would still, whatever's extra, you don't have to like dip and get more product, but whatever's extra, bring it down on your brush because you do not, like nothing's like 100% a perfect match. So now that that's been long enough, so I just put some extra product on some of my foundation on some of my acne spots, so I can start blending it out. And then I'll just take the Beauty Blender and just dab. You can get this at Sephora. I just got the black one, which is really cute. I haven't used the first time using it. I usually have a pink one. There's no difference between the color. It's just color preference. Really light. That's one thing that I notice about people when I'm like, you know, teaching them or showing them something. They usually like press really hard with the Beauty Blender, and you really don't need that. The really awesome thing about, like, literally this is probably the greatest invention of the 21st century when it comes to makeup, and the reason why is that the Beauty Blender is like a sponge. It is a sponge, and it's got a sponge has a lot of pores, much like our face. So when you put the product on, it really gives a nice natural finish like your actual skin. So that's all you need to do. Notice like Beauty Blender is dirty a little bit, but it doesn't have any like big deep spots. It's because I didn't put the foundation directly on it because it would soak in and stay in that spot, and I've ruined so many Beauty Blenders that way, so I stopped doing that. Now a lot of these brushes that I'm talking to you about today, I gave you alternatives for, and trust me when I say they make a million different kinds of alternatives for the Beauty Blender, but I do not. That's one tool that I say do not try to get a cheaper version of, because they just don't work as well. If you found one that works for you, that's awesome. But for me, no, I just stick with the Beauty Blender always. If you don't want to spend, they're usually like $20, but on Amazon, you can find a 2-pack for like $30. And sometimes 2-pack and then 2 Beauty Blenders, and then it comes with a cleaner for $30. So it's a really good deal. So I'd highly recommend getting it from there if you are going to buy one. And they are absolutely legit. They are exactly the same. So don't think like, oh, they're not, you know, they're real ones or anything. So, okay, so our next step is going to be concealer. And the concealer brush that I use is this brush by MAC. It's the 287 brush. It looks like this. It's a little flat and it's got the duo fibers again. I love this brush, like to pack on. Again, I do the same thing. I pack it on with the brush, put it in the areas I want, even blend it out a tiny bit, and then I use the Beauty Blender to really blend it in and get that seamless, perfect look. Again, if you don't want to spend the money on a MAC brush, which can be, I don't know exactly how much this one is, but you know, they range from $30 to $50, and that's a lot of money. So if you don't want to spend that kind of money, again, here's a Real Techniques brush that you can use as a substitute. It's called the Pointed Foundation Brush, but I mean, you don't have to use it for whatever it says. It's a great, still got the duo fibers. It's a great brush for packing on concealer. This is pretty cool. It comes in a three or 4-pack of brushes. From Real Techniques, you can get this at Walmart for $15 or $20. So you get 3 or 4 brushes. I want to say 4 for $20, and this is one of them in there. It's like a steal. You can't go wrong. It's a great brush. I use it all the time. Now we're going to be using MAC Pro Longwear Concealer. I'm in between these two shades, which is, I hate, but I always am, NW20 and NW25. I'm going to put it on my little palette thingy here, and I'm going to mix them up and then apply it. So let's do it. I am a little bit darker, so I'm going to do more of the NW25 than the NW20. The NW25 is just a little too dark, so I'm just going to use the NW20 to lighten it up a bit. So I will take then, once I put them together like that, I'll take the end of any shadow brush that's like kind of pointed, and I'll just swirl them together. Once they are good, I will take that brush, the MAC brush, dip it in there a little bit, and start adding that on. Now the way I do this is I start from the inner corner and I make a straight line down all the way to the end of my nose, and then I bring it up all the way up here. So it looks like a little upside down triangle, and I fill it in. If you're going to, you know, a wedding or just a bigger event and you want to look extra flawless, I would add a little more product. If this is more of an everyday, like today, you know, don't overdo it. So look how that instantly brightens my face up. Like, look at the difference. God, I love concealer. Okay, pack it on like this, and then I start from the inner corner, straight line down, all the way to the end of the nose, and sweep it up, and then fill in. Like, be careful not to touch your concealer or your liner if you already have it on, which is kind of difficult for me to do because I can't see that well. But okay, and then you can take this on your chin, just lightly on here, on the top of your nose. This is where, even though in this tutorial I'll be contouring and with a powder instead of a cream, because I think that that's easier and more natural looking for every day, I always still highlight with a liquid of some sort or a cream, because you can't really highlight with just powder. Okay, now that you have all that, you're gonna go back in with your beauty blender, and now you're gonna use the pointed end, which is perfect for getting right in there. Don't forget to dab really lightly. Do not do too much because it's gonna take the whole product off. You're gonna have to add more and you're wasting your product. So lightly dabbing motions, and I go in the inner eye, come straight down like I did, and then right across the cheek. It's really important that you do this right here area, because this is how you blend it into your, you know, you need to blend where your concealer stops and your foundation starts. If ever you notice that you have a really, you know, harsh line that you can't get it like rid of, maybe like it's already dried on, you have dry skin or something like that, then you can go back in with your foundation brush and just blend this area right here, and then it will get rid of that harsh line, and just blend it over again with the beauty blender. Yeah, a lot of times what I'll do, like if this is too bright now, I'll use the bottom, which has the darker foundation, to dim it down a bit. Like that. Gives a more natural look. For the Cupid's bow, I always put the product right in the middle right here. And then I'll dab it in place, and then whatever's excess I'll put across the upper lip, and that's how you prevent getting that makeup mustache. I know you guys know what I'm talking about. When you have too much dark foundation on your upper lip, then it looks like you have a mustache when you don't. So lightly dab on the nose for the highlight, and then for your forehead, I like to do the same thing, just kind of do it in place of where you applied it, and then buff it out so that the concentration of the product is like right here, and then you blend it out so there's no harsh lines. And then the last thing I do is I'll take the whole beauty blender on the side and just blend everything lightly so there's no harsh lines at all. Lightly patting. Okay. Okay, so now we're gonna move on to our next brush, which is the powder brush, the loose powder brush. This is the one I use by Estee Lauder. It's a powder brush number 10. I love this brush. It's so soft. It's so like, it feels so nice. If you don't want to spend a lot of money on this brush, because I don't think this one was cheap, I don't have an alternative because the other brush that I have is a MAC brush, and it's not really a cheaper version, but really they make so many powder brushes, so you'll easily be able to find a brush to use that, you know, as an alternative if you don't want to spend the money. I'm sure Sephora has plenty of them. Just make sure that it's like not too dense. So, and usually they'll be called a powder brush, so you'll know. But this is amazing. You use this with loose powder. I use this one's by MAC. It's in the color medium. It's a loose powder. I like this because I don't know if you can see on the camera. Oh, there's nothing. If you could see in the camera, it has a little bit of color, and I like that. Generally for the whole face, what I like to do is I like to take the brush and do a light layer over my whole face, and I use the MAC powder for that. This is a very important step because anytime you use a liquid or a cream product, you want to set it with a powder so that you know, when you start to bronze it up or put blush on or whatever else, after you're done with all your liquids on your face or creams, so that when you put your blush on or your contour powder or whatever the case is, that it does not pick up on wet spots or like spots that haven't dried, especially if you have dry skin, you know, it might pick up a patch. So this just gives you an overall one clean, nice layer. It's kind of like the primer. It sets it all in place. The primer also makes sure that your makeup lasts like all day, and this does the same thing. So I like to just take a little dip like that, and then I'll use the cap, kind of dip it in there so it's like a even layer like that. And I'll start with the forehead. I'll do one side of my face and not the other so you guys can see like the difference. It just gives you that like kind of airbrushed, flawless look. I don't know if you can tell on camera, but if you have dry skin, you want to really be careful with this because if you put too much powder, you're gonna look really cakey. So just be careful. I have kind of dry skin in the winter, so that's why I just do one light layer. In the summer, I might add more just because it, you know, it's hot out and I sweat and, you know, things like that. So just be conscious. I do put the under eye on with the smaller brush just because it's easier to get in there. This one is by Real Techniques. It's called a setting brush. It's nice and fluffy. Again, you know where you can get it from, all Walmart or Ulta. So I'll take a little bit just to make sure I really get in there. If I'm going to a wedding or a bigger event, I might let it bake, which means I'll put like a nice good layer on there, a thicker layer than this, and I'll let it sit there for about 3 to 5 minutes, and then I'll wipe it all off, and that will make sure that nothing will move. And I'll also do this. If you guys ever have the problem where your mascara or your eyeliner will get on the top of your lid, you know, later on in the day, this is going to be like the best trick ever. I put a little bit of loose powder on my lid, and that keeps that whole lid, just don't touch the liner. This keeps the whole lid nice and dry. So, because it's the oils on your lid that makes the, you know, the lines or whatever crease and stuff like that. So we're gonna keep it nice and dry. And that's it for the powder part. And the next thing we're gonna move on to is the contour powder. There's so many different things to use. I use the Anastasia Beverly Hills powder contour kit a lot. I also use MAC Mineralized Skin Finish a lot. The MAC Mineralized I like a lot because it's a very light, it's a lighter pigment. So if you're newer at this and you're like, you don't want to create harsh lines, it's a really good one to use. Right now I'm using Sephora's Micro Smooth Bake Face Compact. It's just a little bronze. It's in the color tan. So this is a good one to get because it's not that expensive. It's the Sephora brand. The brush I use for this brush is just glorious. It's by Tarte Cosmetics. It's so cute. Like, I saw it and I was like, I have to have this brush. So I went and got it, and I really like this brush because it has the microfibers, so it picks up a good amount of product, but it's soft still, and it's, you know, if you use it with a light enough hand, you can kind of ensure that you don't get any harsh lines. If you don't want to spend the money on this, because Tarte brushes are not cheap either, Again, Real Techniques. I keep going back to Real Techniques. They have a great powder brush. They call it a powder brush. It's nice and thick, and it has like a nice dome. Now this is called a powder brush. Personally, it's a little too tight for me to use with like the loose powder like this. Even though it's called a powder brush, for me it's not loose enough. It'll pick up too much and apply too much. So you want something that's a little bit more loose than this. This is a little too compact for me, even though they consider it a powder brush. I mean, it is a powder brush. You could use it with this powder, pressed powder, but I wouldn't use it with the loose. So again, Real Techniques is a great brand. So we're gonna start off by taking the Tarte brush. We're gonna dip it in here. Nice even layer. And I'm gonna go in the cheek, you know where the hollow of your cheek is. You can even see mine. I didn't even carve it out. And just apply like this. Again, you want to be really light-handed with it. Like, don't be so harsh, because then you're gonna get those harsh lines. And if you do, you just kind of, like I'm doing right now, just kind of circular motions and buff it out. Bring it all the way up here. Can add more. Bring it up. Outer perimeter of your forehead. My hair gets in the way. Make sure you're getting all the way up into that hairline, because you don't want to see a line, you know, separating it. If you have a smaller forehead, you don't need to do this much, you know, don't need to contour this much, because the whole point of doing this is to, you know, make your forehead look a little smaller. So you guys notice how, you know, it's like dark, it's like light and then fades to dark. Like, I love it. It's so pretty. You can keep going, keep applying as necessary for you. Like, if you're a tanner or you want to be a tanner, you can keep applying, keep buffing. We're going to move on to the other side. Circular motions. I never go all the way down here personally. I never contour all the way down there. It just starts to look muddy and like unnatural, because nobody has a line like all the way up here, like up to here, you know. Once in a while I'll do it just to play around, but usually don't. Okay, then we're gonna do my double chin. I'm gonna do a line from the ear all the way down, and then from here all the way down to the other side, and then you're gonna blend it down just a little bit. And what that does is, you see this double chin, God, it's horrible, horrifying. It's darkened it, so it makes it look like a shadow, and it makes it look like it's not really there. Thank God for makeup. Bring it down a little bit. Now, I will also do my nose. I have a relatively straight nose as it is, so I don't go too far into the contouring of it, but you might want to if you have, you know, problem areas or a bump or something you don't like about your nose. If you ever get to like the point where you feel like it's too harsh and you can't blend it out, you can use another brush kind of similar to this and just blend it out more. All right, so we're gonna move on to blush, and I love this blush brush that I have from Sephora. It's in their Professionals brand or line. It's nice and fluffy. This is called the Rounded Blush Brush number 41. I love this brush. It's nice and open, just enough to pick up product so that you won't create any harshness with your blush. Now, you might want to pick up a different type of brush because it depends on the blush you're using. So this is another brush by MAC. It's the 116. and it looks like this. It's a little bit more dense, which means it's not as fluffy. It's a little bit more compacted. And the reason why you might need two is because it depends on the blush you have. So for example, this blush right here is by MAC. It's called Love Rush. So pretty. It's very pigmented. So with a blush like this, you're going to want to use a brush like this. It's fluffier and fuller because it's not going to pick up as much color and it's not going to be as harsh on your skin. Or like when you put it on, you're not going to have like a harsh line. But if you use a color like this, which is also by MAC, called Modest, it's a very light, like purpley color. If you use this type of brush, you're not gonna nothing's gonna show. It's too light. It doesn't have as deep of a pigment. Like you can barely see it on my hand. So you're gonna want to use a denser brush that's more compacted because it's gonna pick up more product and show more. So you don't have to. I'm just giving you recommendations. It doesn't matter what brand you use. Like I said, just one fluffy and one more dense. Today though, I'm gonna use a different blush. This one's called Tea Rose by Milani. It's so pretty. I love this blush. It's very it has a good pigment for being like a, you know, more drugstore brand. It is a drugstore brand. You get it from CVS. And the flower is so cute. So what I do is I just kind of lightly swirl it in like that. It's better to go lightly and build it than to like grab a bunch, put it on, and then you look like a clown. So go light-handed. And what I like to do, I make this weird face with it, so you can kind of see where you want to plant it. I rarely will ever put blush up here. I just don't like that. That's what gives you the clown-like look. So you want to do it in like a triangle right here, like a long triangle. And it's so fluffy and pretty. You always want to put like the most product back here and then let it like fade to the front. So you never want to have the most product here. You always want to have the most product here and fade. That's why I kind of start at the back. So that side looks good. Again, if you ever do put too much or you put too many harsh lines and you can't really buff it out, use a stippling brush and just kind of blend it in the areas that are too dark. So on this side, we're going to move on. Okay. That looks good. And then, so that's really it for brush wise. Those are the ones that I feel are like necessary for every day. But I'm gonna go ahead and do the rest of my makeup. guys, so I put my mascara on off camera, and I just put my lip liner and lipstick off camera too. I used Soar lip liner by MAC, and I used a matte lip gloss by Kat Von D called Noble. So that's the end of the tutorial. I hope you guys learned a lot. I hope you guys go out and get some good brushes. If you guys have questions or any other things that you'd like to know, or other videos that you want me to do, please comment in my comment section in the blog, or even on my Instagram, Makeup Junkie. And also, please don't forget to subscribe on my blog. If you do subscribe, then you'll just get reminders and emails of anytime I post any new videos. So thanks for watching. Bye.